One simple phone delivery turns an unemployed gamer into the most hated criminal in the country. By sunrise, the police have his fingerprints, his blood-stained hands, C footage, and even the murder weapon. Every piece of evidence proves Kwon is guilty, except he never committed the crime. Kwon is brought to a brutal maximum security prison after being convicted of assaulting and murdering a young girl. The entire country sees him as a monster, but the truth begins several days earlier inside a gaming cafe. Kwon has no permanent job and spends most of his time playing online games with his friends. One evening, after finishing a match, he notices an abandoned phone ringing on a nearby table. When he answers, a frightened woman explains that she accidentally left the device at the cafe. She asks Kwon to bring it to her apartment. He initially refuses, but the moment she offers him $300, he changes his mind. Kwon takes the phone and heads to the address she provides. When he arrives, the apartment door is already open. He can hear running water from the bathroom, suggesting the woman is taking a shower. He calls out from the bedroom and tells her he has arrived. Without coming outside, she instructs him to leave the phone on the bed, collect the money beside it, and go. Kwon follows her directions. Before leaving, he warns her not to keep the front door unlocked, because any stranger could walk inside. She does not answer, so Kwon quietly returns home. He has no idea that this brief visit has already destroyed his life. The following morning, a heavily armed police unit breaks into his house and drags him out of bed. Kwon is stunned to learn that the woman whose phone he returned was murdered that same night. Worse, the police discover blood on his hands. The knife used in the killing is found inside his room, while his fingerprints are recovered throughout the victim's apartment. Security cameras also recorded him entering the building. Every piece of evidence points directly toward Kwon. It is obvious that someone carefully designed the entire crime to make him look guilty. However, the public does not see a conspiracy. They only see a violent killer who deserves the harshest punishment possible. News of the case spreads across the country within hours. Furious crowds gather outside the courthouse, demanding Kwon's execution before the trial has even begun. When Kwon's mother hears what happened, she rushes to the police station. The officers refuse to let her meet her own son. With nowhere else to turn, she begins handing out flyers and begging strangers to believe that Kwon is innocent. No one listens. To the public, she is not a desperate mother trying to save her child. She is the mother of a monster. Some people insult and humiliate her in the streets, but she refuses to abandon him. Eventually, she visits the office of a respected attorney named Min. After examining the evidence, even Min believes Kwon committed the murder. The case appears impossible to defend. Still, Kwon's mother repeatedly begs for his help. Her determination finally moves him, and Min agrees to represent Kwon, despite knowing that they have almost no chance of winning. During the first court hearing, the prosecutor presents the fingerprints, CCTV footage, blood evidence, and murder weapon. Outside, the media and public continue pressuring the court for an immediate conviction. The judge quickly declares Kwon guilty and sentences him to life in prison. The court even blames his lifestyle, arguing that unemployment and years of violent gaming damaged his mind and pushed him toward murder. With one careless judgment, Kwon loses his freedom, his reputation, and any hope of returning to a normal life. He is transferred to a maximum security prison filled with violent criminals. The moment he enters the cell block, inmates stare at him like predators examining fresh prey. During recreation one morning, a powerful gang leader named Paul notices Kwon. His men immediately grab the new prisoner and drag him across the yard. The guards watch everything from a distance. They know exactly what Paul intends to do. But his influence inside the prison is so strong that no one dares interfere. With a single signal from Paul, the guards turn away. Paul begins beating Kwon, expecting him to remain helpless. Instead, Kwon suddenly fights back and lands a powerful punch directly across Paul's face. That single strike humiliates the gang leader in front of everyone. Enraged, Paul and his men attack Kwon together, beating him until he can barely move. Only after the damage is done do the guards step in. Yet Kwon is the only one punished. The prison administration blames him for starting the fight and locks him inside solitary confinement for 30 days. Kwon does not realize it yet, but that month in darkness will transform him completely. After surviving the isolation, he is returned to the regular cell block. Paul and his gang immediately surround him again. This time they go much further. They brutally beat Kwon and inject him with a dangerous chemical that causes him to lose control of his mind. Confused and terrified, he nearly injures himself before the guards finally take him to the medical ward. Several days later, Kwan's elderly mother arrives with Min. The moment she sees her son's broken condition, she understands how badly he has been tortured behind those walls. Holding back her tears, she tells Kwan not to give up. She promises to get him out of that prison and clear his name, no matter what it costs. She knows the son she raised could never commit such a crime, and she refuses to let the world remember him as a murderer. Her words restore something Kwan believed he had lost hope. From that moment, he decides he will survive long enough to prove his innocence. One afternoon, an older inmate quietly sits beside him during lunch. The man reveals that many prisoners believe Kwan was deliberately framed. He also explains why Paul keeps targeting him. Kwan acts defeated, never fully protects himself, and allows everyone to see him as weak. The truth hits Kwan hard. He realizes that waiting for mercy will only get him killed. The next time Paul's men come for him, he decides to be ready. Kwan studies their movements and disappears before they can surround him, using nothing more than pens and pieces of paper. He creates several small but dangerously sharp weapons. Then he strikes. He takes down Paul's men one at a time, using speed and planning instead of strength. Finally, he confronts Paul and drops the gang leader with one perfectly timed attack. For the first time since entering prison, Kwan is no longer treated like helpless prey. But his victory lasts only one night. The following day, Min visits him carrying devastating news. The sadness on the lawyer's face tells Kwan that something terrible has happened before a single word is spoken. His mother is dead. Min places her death certificate on the table because Kwan must sign it. Prison regulations will not even allow him to attend her funeral. Then Min reveals the unbearable truth. After months of being insulted, threatened, and publicly branded as the mother of a killer, she could no longer endure the shame and harassment. Completely broken, she took her own life. Kwan's world collapses. The only person who believed in him is gone, and he was not even allowed to say goodbye. But through the pain, he remembers her final promise. She wanted him to live, fight, and remove the criminal label forced upon him. Kwan decides her death cannot be meaningless. Consumed by anger, he later attacks Paul without warning. The two prisoners clash in a savage fight, and Paul drives a knife into Kwan's stomach. Both men are badly injured and require treatment outside the prison. Under heavy guard, they are placed inside an ambulance and transported toward a major hospital. While the vehicle travels along the highway, Kwan pretends to be unconscious. The guards believe he is too weak to move. They are wrong. Kwan suddenly rises and attacks them before they can react. He presses a sharp object against the lead sergeant's neck and demands the key to his restraints. Facing death, the sergeant hands it over. Before Kwan can complete his escape, the speeding ambulance loses control. It crashes violently, leaving everyone inside seriously injured. Kwan crawls through the wreckage, unlocks his chains, and runs toward the surrounding forest. Behind him, the wounded sergeant raises his pistol and takes aim. He could end the escape with one shot. However, after everything he has witnessed, even the officer suspects Kwan may be innocent. He also knows that returning the prisoner to the same facility would be a death sentence. The sergeant slowly lowers his weapon and allows Kwan to disappear. After traveling deep into the forest, Kwan finds a small settlement. He steals clean clothes, changes his appearance, and vanishes before the authorities can reach the area. Soon, every police unit in the country is hunting him. While trying to stay hidden, Kwan discovers a stranded couple whose car has broken down. They are desperate to reach the airport before their flight leaves. Kwan repairs the engine within minutes. Grateful for his help, the couple gives him a ride. They have no idea that the quiet stranger sitting beside them is the country's most wanted fugitive. Since they are permanently leaving the country, they give Kwan their car at the airport, suggesting he sell it for money. With transportation secured, Kwan drives back toward the city. He goes directly to Min's luxurious home, believing the lawyer is the only person who might still help him. Min welcomes him inside and gives him an old necklace that belonged to his mother. He promises to re-examine the murder files, but insists Kwan must first surrender to the police. According to Min, the law cannot help him while he remains a fugitive. The word surrender immediately makes Kwan suspicious. He has already trusted the legal system once, and it buried him alive. Without wasting another second, he leaves Min's house and disappears into the city. Kwan hides inside a cybercafe and searches for information about his own case. Every major article describes him as a violent predator and convicted killer. Then one unusual documentary catches his attention. Unlike the others, this video claims Kwon was framed through a carefully organized conspiracy. It raises a critical question ignored during the trial. How could one man commit the entire crime within the 3-minute window shown by the security footage? The documentary also exposes inconsistencies in the forensic evidence and suggests that important records were altered before reaching the court. For the first time, Kwon finds proof that someone else believes him. He scrolls through the information and discovers that the investigation was published by a writer named Harry. The name is familiar because Harry was one of the online players who regularly joined Kwon's gaming team. After several hours of searching, Kwon finally locates the mysterious writer. But when they meet, Kwon receives another surprise. Harry is not a man. She is a highly intelligent young woman named Yoon, who has been hiding behind the online identity. Before they can speak for long, the CAF manager recognizes Kwon and secretly contacts the police. Yoon notices the manager's behavior and immediately senses danger. She signals Kwon to leave, then guides him away from the crowded city center. She takes him to a hidden bunker located on the outskirts of town. The secret base is completely isolated from the outside world. Inside, Kwon finds walls covered with monitors, computers, cables, and surveillance equipment. Yoon is not simply an online gamer or investigative writer. She is one of the most talented underground hackers operating on the dark web. Realizing Kwon has barely eaten since escaping, she places a hot meal in front of him. Starving, he begins eating without hesitation. But before Yoon can explain what she has uncovered, the bunker door suddenly opens. Several unknown people step inside, and Kwon has no idea whether they have come to rescue him or return him to the nightmare he just escaped. Kwon immediately jumps from his seat, expecting another attack. But the strangers entering the bunker are not enemies. They are the same loyal gamers who used to play alongside him online every night. His entire team has now reunited with one mission: prove Kwon's innocence and expose the people who destroyed his life. Yoon has already found several major flaws in the official murder investigation. To understand how deep the conspiracy goes, the team begins examining other recent cases involving powerful celebrities and wealthy public figures. That is when they discover a disturbing pattern. Security footage near multiple crime scenes shows the same mysterious delivery truck appearing again and again. Yoon hacks into the vehicle's registration records and learns that it was purchased using a fake address connected to a scrapyard. Kwon secretly enters the scrapyard while avoiding police surveillance. From a hiding place, he watches two suspicious men load a massive wooden crate into the trunk of a car. He follows them through the city until they stop outside one of the most expensive residential towers in the area. The apartment belongs to No Jun-young, one of the country's biggest television stars. Once the men leave, Yoon remotely cracks the apartment's digital security code. Kwon slips inside and approaches the large crate sitting in the center of the room. The moment he opens it, his blood runs cold. No Jun-young's body is hidden inside. Before Kwon can react, he hears heavy footsteps approaching. He quickly hides in a dark corner as a group of covert agents enters the apartment. Wearing gloves, the agents begin manufacturing an entirely fake crime scene. They place another person's fingerprints around the body and scatter planted hair samples nearby. Kwon watches in horror as they prepare to frame yet another innocent victim. Then the mastermind behind the operation finally appears. It is Min. The same lawyer who defended Kwon, comforted his mother, and pretended to search for the truth, is secretly running the entire conspiracy. No Jun-young was actually killed by the daughter of a wealthy and influential businessman named Chairman Shu. To protect his only child from prosecution, Shu paid Min an enormous amount of money. Min's job was simple: erase the real killer's involvement, manufacture false evidence, and sacrifice an innocent person in her place. The team also discovers that Min's building contains a hidden underground control room accessible only through facial recognition. Inside is a powerful computer system containing private information on millions of people. Using that database, Min can search for vulnerable targets with no connection to the victims and turn them into perfect suspects. For the celebrity murder, he has already selected an ordinary young woman who has never even met No Jun-young. She has no idea her life is about to be destroyed. Before escaping the apartment, Kwon secretly photographs the false fingerprints planted beside the body. He sends the images to Yoon so she can identify Min's next victim. Within minutes, Yoon matches the prints to a woman named So. Several days earlier, Min's agents had broken into So's home, drugged her unconscious, and collected her hair, blood, fingerprints, and other biological samples. Those materials were now being planted at the murder scene. Min's people then contact So and trick her into visiting the celebrity's apartment. But Kwan's team has already tapped her phone and is listening to every conversation. When Kwan hears the caller's voice, he freezes. It is the same woman who once asked him to return the abandoned phone. The truth becomes painfully clear. The girl Kwan was accused of killing had actually been assaulted and murdered by the son of another wealthy family. Min's organization cleaned the scene, planted Kwan's evidence, and used the phone call to place him inside the apartment at exactly the right time. Kwan now understands that the entire night was staged from beginning to end. He tracks down the female caller, hoping to capture her and force her to reveal everything. But the moment she notices him, she jumps onto a motorcycle and speeds away. Kwan races after her in his car, but the engine suddenly fails. Before he can continue the chase, Paul arrives with several armed men. Somehow, the prison gang leader has escaped custody and tracked Kwan down. Paul captures him, takes him to an isolated location, and begins torturing him. However, Min has no loyalty to Paul. Once Paul has served his purpose, Min secretly sends Kwan's live location to the police. Sirens soon surround the area. Using the confusion, Kwan breaks free and escapes Paul's grip. Yoon arrives at the perfect moment, pulls him into her car, and drives away. While they flee, Kwan asks how Paul managed to find him so quickly. Yoon examines the necklace Min gave Kwan after his mother's death. Hidden inside it is a tiny GPS tracking device. Min has been monitoring Kwan's location the entire time. The necklace is the last thing Kwan has from his mother, but keeping it would endanger everyone. With a heavy heart, he throws it from the moving car. Now aware of Min's surveillance network, Yoon's team builds several advanced drones and sends them to scan his building. They suspect the structure contains a massive hidden computer network, and the drones confirm it. Behind the walls and beneath the floors are countless servers connected like a giant digital web. Min's organization has access to private records, security systems, forensic databases, and personal information belonging to people across the country. Meanwhile, Kwan secretly returns to No Jun Young's apartment. He removes the evidence planted against So and replaces it with real biological samples belonging to Min. When Min realizes the crime scene has been compromised, he panics. He orders his agents to remove the body, clean the entire apartment, and construct a new scene somewhere else. At the same time, Chairman Shu's daughter is hiding inside a private hospital while pretending to be a patient. She calls her father and demands that Min finish the cover-up quickly. She is tired of remaining trapped inside a hospital room. Shu immediately pressures Min, forcing his team to rush the new setup. But Kwan is already one step ahead. He enters the hospital, knocks Shu's daughter unconscious, and takes her directly to the new crime scene prepared by Min's agents. When the police arrive the following morning, they do not find an innocent stranger beside the body. They find the real killer. Shu's daughter is arrested immediately, and news of her involvement in No Jun Young's murder spreads across the country. Min's carefully constructed operation begins collapsing. Kwon calls him directly and warns that the entire world is about to see what he has done. Instead of becoming frightened, Min begins laughing. It is now clear that he is not merely a corrupt lawyer. He is a deeply disturbed man who treats destroyed lives as entertainment. Min admits that ordinary frame jobs had become boring. The fact that Kwon survived and challenged him has finally made the game exciting again. Kwon refuses to listen and ends the call. The rejection enrages Min, but when he turns toward his office, his expression suddenly changes. His secretary lies dead on the floor. Min instantly realizes that Kwon has already entered his building. He rushes toward the hidden basement control room, only to find Kwon waiting inside. Kwon attacks without hesitation. Every punch carries the anger of his imprisonment, the suffering of his mother, and the lives Min destroyed for money. After overpowering him, Kwon activates the supercomputer. The files inside are more horrifying than he expected. The system contains recordings of manufactured crime scenes, stolen forensic evidence, targeted victims, corrupt officials, and every innocent person Min has framed. Kwon also finds videos of his mother. The recordings show her standing alone before reporters, begging the country to believe her son was innocent while the public mocked and humiliated her. Covered in blood, Min begins laughing again. Then, he reveals the cruelest truth of all. Kwon's mother did not simply take her own life because of public pressure. Min arranged for her to be removed after her protests began attracting attention and threatening his operation. That confession destroys the last of Kwan's restraint. He beats Min until the corrupt lawyer can barely move. Then he connects Yoon's flash drive to the supercomputer and begins transferring every secret file. But the system estimates that the transfer will require 30 minutes. Before it can finish, Paul contacts Kwan. Paul has kidnapped Yoon's entire gaming team. He threatens to kill them one at a time unless Kwan comes immediately. He also reveals that Yoon is meant to become Min's next framed suspect. His men have already stolen her fingerprints and Dina, which will be planted at the site of a major bombing. Kwan cannot remain in the basement and wait for the download. Trusting that the transfer will continue, he leaves Min behind and races to save his friends. At Yoon's bunker, Paul fires at one of the captured team members, but the bullet narrowly misses. Then, the entire facility suddenly loses power. The blackout is part of Kwan's plan. Using the darkness as cover, he enters the bunker and attacks Paul's men before they can see him. One after another, the gang members fall as Kwan moves through the room with speed and precision. After rescuing his friends, the team immediately heads toward the national television headquarters. Their only chance is to expose Min's evidence live before he can erase it. But Min has already hacked the country's news networks and declared Kwan and his friends dangerous fugitives. Now both the police and Paul's remaining men are hunting them. When they reach the television station, Yoon enters the main command center alone. The others remain outside, distracting the police and buying her time. Her goal is to hijack the national satellite broadcast and release Min's files to every television screen in the country. Before she can finish, the police arrest Kwan's teammates. Patrol cars surround Kwan's vehicle from every direction. With no escape left, Kwan calmly steps outside, raises his hands, and surrenders. Millions of people watch the arrest live. Believing the country's most dangerous killer has finally been captured, the public celebrates. Inside his luxurious office, Min watches the broadcast and smiles, convinced that he has won. His victory lasts only seconds. The lights inside his control room begin flickering. His computer system freezes, and every command becomes locked. Min suddenly remembers that Yoon's flash drive is still connected to his main server. The transfer was completed. Yoon takes control of the national broadcast and sends every secret recording across the country. News channels begin showing footage of Min's agents manufacturing crime scenes, stealing Dina, planting fingerprints, accepting bribes, and framing innocent people. The truth about Kwan's case is finally revealed. The public sees how he was lured to the apartment, how the weapon was placed in his home, and how every piece of evidence against him was fabricated. People who once demanded his death now realize they helped destroy an innocent man and drove his mother into tragedy. Min attempts to flee in his car, but Kwan's gaming team has already sabotaged it by removing the steering wheel. Before he can find another escape route, police vehicles surround the building. This time, the man who controlled the law is placed in handcuffs. Kwan and his friends are cleared of all charges and released with full public recognition. The same country that once called them criminals now celebrates them as heroes. But Min's punishment is only beginning. In the final scene, he is placed inside a silent prison cell. Across from him sits Paul, staring with pure hatred. Because of Min's betrayal, Paul has been sent back behind bars, and now the corrupt lawyer has nowhere to run. The fear in Min's eyes makes one thing clear. For him, life inside that prison will be far worse than death. And with the real criminals finally punished, Kwan's long fight for justice comes to an end. So, what did you think of the story? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more movie recaps, and check out the next video appearing on your screen.